How many of you guys have ever met somebody that's wealthy and miserable? And how many of you have met somebody that's like truly happy but broke? What I started to see is that if you play the game a certain way and win, you can still lose.
So we have these unobtainable numbers with unobtainable, unclear goals. We're feeling anxious. We never know it's enough. So what do? We work harder because somehow we think working harder is going to make us feel more comfortable. And guess what? It doesn't do anything.
So I think half of this conversation is just having the courage to pause and be clear on what you want. That is the beginning of really unlocking wealth for yourself.
Keep following that instinct until the signal gets stronger, and it gets stronger and stronger, and that's like manifesting a muscle. And then you get to play on the highest levels of purpose. And what I'm experiencing now is the more and more I say hell yes to that intuition, that is my legacy.
Because you have all the other freedom, so you're just in your purpose and you're creating without constraints. And I don't think enough people understand that that's available to them. It's available to all of us.
Hi, this is JP Newman, and welcome to Investing on Purpose. Today's episode is the one that I've been waiting for a long time, to get Joe Stolte to have another child so we can actually sit down and take the time to do this episode about what is the quintessential cornerstone of four-dimensional wealth. Sam and I have been talking about it for 10 years, and wealth pyramids, but what does it actually mean to live in 4D? It sounds good, and we're gonna really dive deeply into that today. We're gonna talk about that it's not just the money you make, but how aligned your life feels. Where your money serves as your energy source, your currency, for feeling your fulfilled, purpose-driven life. How many people talk about money and wealth and being fulfilled and purpose-driven? Seems like they're two different things when we actually think they're one thing, and we're gonna dive into that. So I'm here with Joe Stolte, as I said. Joe, you've been an incredible friend, really an incredible friend, partner, and inspiration. And I'm just so grateful that you really it's funny how life, you kind of came at like the right time, and it was just amazing. And helping me create this movement. I think it's been in my head for a long time. I'll give you guys just a little bit of a quick history. So at 36, I was already kind of struggling. I finally started thriving, and I started making money. And I realized there was really no framework around making money. And so all I knew was I was supposed to be working hard in my 20s and my 30s, and eventually money would come. And that's what I did. I grinded. And then when money came, I didn't know what to do. I had no format. I had no infrastructure. I had no financial literacy of how it was going to bring me happiness. So really, this journey that we're going to go on today together, guys, is really like my journey of going from that 36-year-old who thought money was going to buy happiness and it did kind of just the opposite, to interviewing hundreds of investors and people. And now for my podcast, a lot of you have reached out to me for mentorship, and you really realize that a lot of times money without the mindset or the framework can actually cause you more stress and more anxiety rather than having a life of fulfillment and purpose. And so with that, before we go kind of jump knee deep, Joe, let's start about who you are. So Joe, obviously, I still don't understand how you've accomplished so many things at your age. I'm like, how did you do that all? But you have. So obviously, you were the CEO of lottery.com. That was like just the beginning. You IPO'd for $526 million, if I remember that right. CRO of GrowFlow, right? You've got like 5 or 6 other things I couldn't keep track of. Olympics, breakdancer, new father. The guy plays so many roles. Also, newsletter.ai, which is really how we met, which was kind of funny. We were just kind of casually chatting about newsletter.ai and me investing in newsletter. If you guys don't know, it's an incredible AI-driven newsletter that Thrive comes out with now once a month, and it's all being driven on Joe's platform. Of course, I'm a small company. He does major Fortune 500 companies, but it's so cool that the intelligence gets better and better. And with Alex's help, we shoot one video. They literally is scouring like the communications and the things that we're doing, including our Thrive Pulse. And then it creates this beautiful newsletter with a little bit of Joe's help, and it's just incredible. And the open rate, Joe, has been like over 60%, which I think in marketing terms is pretty good.
It's very good.
If you guys signed up, actually, if you want to be part of the newsletter, it's actually pretty cool. It's not your usual blah, blah. It's actually, I think, unique perspectives on where we're at. And if you're looking to be an investor in real estate, I think it gives you a pretty good insight to where the market's at. And we don't mind telling you when it's good or when it's bad. So that's super fun. And Joe, why don't we just start off with talking a little bit about, you've obviously had an incredible run, multiple companies, all these things. You made money early. You've done everything in your life a little early, and it didn't come easy to you. I know you've told me your story. You were really just listening, observing. You didn't come from a privileged background. In fact, just the opposite.
Yeah.
You didn't come with a network, just the opposite. And you banged your way into Wall Street in the highest offices in New York City, which makes no sense based on you didn't have the college or you didn't have all the things that you would expect to be that person. And then you actually, not only do you arrive at a job, but you thrive and survive in a very, very competitive environment. So you really learned at a young age that money was tough. It could be a game. You were in the middle of the boiler room grind. And so I think it's really interesting, Joe, and I really want to ask you a question about this, is it seems like you've come to the same conclusion I have, which is why I think we bond, that money without purpose is completely a fruitless endeavor.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you hit it on the head. Like, I grew up in a farm town of less than 1,000 people in the middle of nowhere, Oregon, 30 or 40 minutes from Portland. And I like to jokingly say that it was a huge deal when we got a traffic light and people basically fell out of their chairs when we got a McDonald's. It was like a truck stop on the way to the beach kind of a thing. It's a good place to be from. It was like a good place to like get in a fight and get a drug habit. But inside of that, like, I didn't know anybody with any money. I didn't even know anybody that knew anybody that had real money. We were like lower middle class. My parents worked hard. My father was in the military. He chose to travel instead of having us travel around all the time. But my mom worked 2 jobs, and I was basically raised by my older brother, half brother, who's 13 years older than me, and his priorities were like smoking weed, fixing the Camaro in the driveway, bench pressing, and drinking milk, So I had a long leash as a child, and I got to explore. And, I don't think the way that I was raised would be kosher today, but I wouldn't trade it for anything because along that journey, I got lucky. I met amazing mentors like you. I met amazing mentors in various stages of my life that helped elevate me to they gave me the right opportunity. That saying that when success meets preparation, like that's when you sort of unlock. That was very true in my life a number of times. And so, fast forward, I actually didn't even start my career in business. I've always been an entrepreneur for as long as I can remember. We can get into some of those stories. But I actually started my career as a professional dancer. So I graduated high school at 17, and I chose to forego going to college, and I chose to forego just life, quite frankly. And I was a professional break dancer, which sounds crazy. Especially back then, it was crazy, But I moved to Seattle. I remember like it was yesterday, a friend of mine, Marcus, called me. He's like, hey, a bunch of us are moving into a house. Do you want to move in? I was like, yes. Hung up, packed my bags. I drove up that night. He's like, oh, I forgot to tell you, we're not moving into like next week. So I just slept on the couches for like a week, but that's how in it I was. And I just trained. I trained breaking every day, like an athlete. Our breaking crew ended up winning 2 world titles. The mayor of Seattle gave us our own day twice. I got to share the stages with some of the biggest, artists in the world. At one point in the early 2000s, it was like I was walking down the hallway and we saw Jay-Z and Beyonce for like the 6th time that year. And it was kind of like, oh, hey, you guys again, So I had this whole life where entrepreneurship and business, like I had no mental models for that yet. I just knew that breaking was where I found mastery. And I had this really beautiful experience of understanding the power of mastering something without regard to the financial attachment to it. And quite frankly, like in retrospect, I had the courage, at the time maybe blind courage, to just put my head down and follow that. And fortunately for me, I was like washing cars at a Hertz Rent-A-Car. And that's where I met my very first mentor in business, a guy named Chris Smith, who kind of took me under his wing. And he was a management consultant, and he got me into that world. He inspired me to go get my undergraduate degree. And I ended up networking my way into all these top firms for 4 years. And it was easy because all these young guys that were high flying in these consulting firms would, they wanted to get into the club, and we were going to the club like 4 days a week. We were like the kings of the club, so we can get them in anywhere. So when it came time for me to put my resume in the hat, I did, and I was able to basically get all the interviews I wanted. Worked for my mentor for a few years. And then after that, I went and worked at Microsoft, and just lucky, straight lucky. Like I got to work with some of the very, very senior people. One of my first main stakeholders.
It was lucky, but he was incredibly calculated and strategic.
Yeah, I worked hard for it.
You did.
Anyway, long story short, I got to work with like Satya Nadella, who's now the CEO of Microsoft. I got to work with now the guy who's now Mark and Dara, who were the CEO and CFO of Expedia. He's now the CEO of Uber. But one day I just woke up and was like, hey, this is not what God put me here to do. I've not been called to work in corporate America. I became very good at it. But I got married, my father passed away from cancer, and I moved to Venice Beach, California, all in like a 6-month period of time. It was like me and like 6 other people from Summit Series. There's 2 bathrooms and 1 shower. We were on Abbot Kinney, right behind Abbot Kinney. And it was like the time of my life. I went from making, like $500,000 a year to like making nothing, but loving my life. And that was the beginning of my startup career. Fast forward now, I'm a 5-time founder. I've had 3 successful exits, including Lottery, which went public after I left for over $500 million, GrowFlow, which we sold for over $60 million. And I'm working on my next exit with Daily AI right now. So fingers crossed, everybody. But through that journey, I think one of the things that I saw is I got fortunate enough to really get exposed to wealth at the highest levels, right? Top of the Forbes list. People that went from having nothing to being wildly wealthy because of technology or investing or startups or crypto or whatever. And how many of you guys have ever met somebody that's wealthy and miserable? And how many of you have met somebody that's like truly happy but broke? And has the consequences that come with not having money as a tool? I don't want to make anybody right or wrong for how they live their life, but what I started to see is that if you play the game a certain way and win, you can still lose, right? You can go put your head down for 15 years in a startup and then really come out the other side like a centimillionaire or a billionaire. And then you're going to spend the next 3 years in like doing psilocybin and ayahuasca and caring and sharing and hugging people, trying to figure out who you are because all that money didn't heal your soul. And then you get through the other side and you finally realize, wow, I'm in a position to create systems that could permanently change the way that we operate as a species. So you kind of go through this cycle. But how many of you guys have met incredibly, the people that are wealthy, but they don't have any free time? How many of you guys know entrepreneurs that are financially wealthy, but they have no time, right? And so what I started to realize is that like all of my favorite human beings in the world that I wanted to hang out with were successful entrepreneurs. And I couldn't just call them at Thursday at 8 o'clock and be like, hey bro, you want to go to the spa and like hang out? The answer is always yes. And I have this and 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 then family and all this stuff, right? And so they climb to this other top of the mountain where they seem pretty fulfilled. They're doing something good for the world, so it's purpose driven. They've got their money right, but they don't have freedom of time. There's no time freedom. They still have never found that elusive time freedom. So I started to see that there's this game that you can play. And one of the things I learned early in my career was to think with the end in mind. And if you can see a bigger future than the one that's been programmed into your mind, which is chase money at all costs, and you can see that you can actually be financially successful, you can have your time freedom, you can have freedom of purpose, where you can pursue the things that you're here to do in the world and have a vibrant community and be healthy, right? Like it's not an easy thing to thread all those needles, but I think if you understand that is actually a prize worth competing for or a prize worth going after, then the chances of you getting there are much higher. And I don't think anyone ever told me that. I just had to watch other people do it. And that's why when we met and I was watching what you were up to, I immediately got it. And watching how you move through the world, JP, I saw that you had all of those freedoms already unlocked in your life. You're what I call a business artist, right? Business artists wake up and go, and they call their friends and they go, do you want to start a commune in Tulum? I just thought that'd be cool. But JP's version of that is like, hey, do you want to make like a Soho house in downtown Austin, but for Jewish people, but welcoming to all faiths and just make it a cool place to share our culture? Yeah, why don't we do that? Like when you've unlocked all of these levels of freedom, those are the conversations that you have because you have all the other freedom. So you're just in your purpose and you're creating without constraints. And I don't think enough people understand that that's available to them. It's available to all of us. But I believe that you got to know your outcome. If you don't know your outcome, it's very unlikely it's going to be mailed to your front doorstep. Yeah. And so that was really the beginning of our journey when I sat down with you and we started talking about all the things we could do. It was like, okay, it just became very clear that like you're a living embodiment of all the dimensions of wealth, and what a better platform to run on and concept to unpack for everyone that's coming into your world. And that's kind of the part of the genesis of this idea of 4-dimensional wealth.
It's cool, Joe. I guess you meet the right person at the right time, because for me, I was doing all the mentoring. Tristan one day, we were in my house in Eden, and he was just listening on my phone calls one day, and Tristan looks at me and goes, you know you're the money mystic, right? Like people just call you constantly. You have friends and family and investors, and they're calling you for advice. And and I was really unconscious. I'm like, that's interesting. And then Joe, when we met, it's like, you're so amazing at frameworks. And you took like what was in my head and you really helped like this. When I say you helped me co-create 4-dimensional wealth, it was there. I just never had put a framework around it. And so I'm so grateful for the inspiration to put that. And really, this does feel like my second summit. Adrian and I have been talking for a while about what does Thrive 2.0 look like, and a lot of conversations about it. But for me, I just have this incredible urge at this point in my life to give and serve greater. Like that's actually probably the most important thing outside of my family, who's in the back, my boys. Like really, how do we serve bigger? How do we? It's like a curious adventure, just to see, to your point, like let's do a center, let's go do this, let's do like, it becomes like this game. And the more you practice and manifest the game, you get to play bigger games. Every game you win unlocks the next level. And it's like, oh shit, we can do anything. My wife was joking. She's like, oh, was it you, Zach, in the back? I forget. That's my two sons in the back, Zach and Alec. I think you said to me like 2 weeks ago, Zach, you're like, Dad, could you get to anyone in the USA? Like, and we were playing a game, like, could you get to that senator? Who do you know in your network? Was that you who was asking me that question? And we actually started playing the game. Who would it take to get to that person? And it's kind of becoming funny. It's not because it's such an important network. It's just like Kevin Bacon, you can get to a lot of people through this ant or through this person. And it was super fun to play that game with you. It was great. So let's go into the 4 dimensions of wealth. And I want to start with one thing. And one of my passions to do this work is so many people talk about finances. How many bros have behind Lamborghinis on Instagram, 7 steps to $1 million, or like all the stuff that makes you feel like you're not enough. And so we send a message. If you're a woman and you're not pretty enough, you're not enough. And if you're a man and you're not a Lambo bro, guess what? You're not enough. So we keep reinforcing that you're not enough. And then we give you these lame books to read, lame ways to make money that are really super hard and confusing. I sat in one in Costa Rica. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And then I just read a great book. I won't mention the author's name. And it's really prescriptive. Kiss your kids at night and take your wife on date night. Well, that's great. But that's not going to get you to be a fulfillionaire living in 4-dimensional wealth, because mindset alone does not do it. You can kiss your kid and it's great. I can give you 1,000 things that are prescriptive. But if you don't have a financial framework that matches the why that makes you cry, your mindset, and you're clear, you're just going to be spinning in 1-dimensional wealth. And 1D wealth is what your financial planner tells you. What's your financial planner going to tell you? Diversified portfolio of stocks, save enough money so when you're 70 and you can barely breathe, you'll at least survive so you can pay your medical bills. Well, that sounds like a good time. So you can tell I'm a little passionate about the subject. So really, how do we break out of that? And Joe, what you've been describing, where everyone's living, everyone's breaking out. And here's the thing I've learned, and Adrian, tell me if you agree with this. Most people are just fearful. Like they're having, like, you go through the whole thing. They're fearful. It's not enough. I feel broke. And then you start asking them. I have like 5 basic questions. I won't bore you in this one. If you come to my workshop, I'll tell you more about this. But the one question I started to ask is, so what do you want? Well, that's a hard one for most people. What do you actually want? But if I can actually get them, and with Joe's help with some great AI prompts, if I can get you to what you want, then why don't we put a number on it? Let's put a number. What would it cost per year to live that fulfilled life? And you know what happens for most people? It's a lot less than they think. So we have these unobtainable numbers with unobtainable, unclear goals. We're feeling anxious. We never know it's enough. So what do? We work harder because somehow we think working harder is going to make us feel more comfortable. And guess what? It doesn't do anything. I've lived it. I know it. Until you know what it is that you're aiming for and have a plan to get there, you're going to be in the circle of anxiety and unclarity, and you can never get to the point of purpose. It's very hard. And I am angry because I feel like it doesn't have to be that hard. It really doesn't have to be that hard. It's kind of knowing, I always steal this from Tristan, you probably stole it from someone, the why that makes you cry. What is it that you're here to do? And let's talk about the 4 dimensions of wealth. Let's put a number to it, and let's put a financial plan. And Mark, you'll like this. Mark's one of my financial people on my team. Mark, how long have we been doing this together? I don't know, long time. And so then put a number on it, but then also let's create a financial plan that backs it. And it's not about net worth. It's simply using your passive income and your active income from your job. And let's just make incremental steps. Sam's all over this because we've been doing this for 10 years together too. So enough. I'm sorry. I kind of went off on a tangent.
No, let me comment on that. I think,
Okay.
whether it's your financial plan or your plan for anything in life, I think if you go into this conversation of personal development and like how to better yourself, right? You know, that journey that starts with Tony Robbins or Wayne Dyer and ends with ayahuasca or ending up in India or whatever. What I've observed from that process that many of us have gone through, especially as entrepreneurs, is that like, if you can kind of distill it down to a couple of things. And one of those things is just going from being reactive to proactive, going from being like at effect to being at cause. So when JP's talking about making a financial plan, really what he's saying is like, how do you take stock of what's possible for your life and then make a plan or just be a little bit proactive in your own way, right? And I'm not a planner. Like I'm a shoot from the hipper, right? Like I'm a gunslinger. And inside of that, I've learned that like 2 ounces of forward thinking around where I want to go and thinking with the end in mind, they make my shooting from the hip a lot more accurate because I know where I'm aiming, if that makes sense. So I think half of this conversation in success or wealth or whatever it is just having the courage to pause and be clear on what you want. Allow yourself to want what you want. And then even making a rudimentary plan or an intention or an energetic shift in the direction of what you want, the likelihood that that is going to happen, whether it's through cause and effect or metaphysics or something else, is so much higher. But we're so wrapped up in all of our bullshit, right? And we all have our version of that. We're so wrapped up in like our whatever we've been programmed with our family or our culture or our nation or our politics or our social media or our Lamborghini or whatever, right? And I don't want to make any of that wrong. We're all on our journey and that's the way it is. I think the key is just getting awareness to say that like I have the ability to see beyond that and make a decision for myself and actually move in the direction of that. That is the beginning of really unlocking wealth for yourself. Not unlocking wealth that's been deposited into your head or some desire that you didn't actually create yourself, that was actually given to you from somebody else. And so what I love about what you're doing with Fulfillionaire and 4 Dimensions of Wealth is really giving people a chance to start there. So when JP says the why that makes you cry, that's really what it is. Like the subcomponents of that are taking that space to really examine like, well, what is it that you want and allowing yourself to want that. And then we make the plan and then we make the directed, inspired action plan to get you to where you want to go. And it might be wealth, it might be time, it might be relationships, it might be purpose, freedom, health, whatever that is for you. Maybe some of you listening to this or in the room have the money thing figured out. Fantastic. Let's do that for the other part, the other dimension that you really haven't cracked yet, right? Because it's one thing to make money, but if you don't make money in a way that allows you to have these other freedoms, then you've just built yourself what? A prison, a success prison. So I just wanted to point that out. So when you say the why that makes you cry, there's so many layers to that I think I just want to double click on that one, to have the awareness and courage to go for what you want and be proactive around it.
And I think it looks a little bit like a tree when it's all done. I visualize it as a tree that once you have your money and a plan, because you know your number that's actually living in the highest of your 4 dimensions, your currency, the energy is your fuel and it's the trunk of the tree and the 4 dimensions are the branches. So what are the 4 dimensions? I always say health is at the top. Any of you had a health journey, and most of us have had a mental health journey or a body health journey. And when you're on a health journey, you guys all know that you spend most of your life trying to figure out your condition. So then you're really living in this part of your hemisphere, and it's really hard to really experience purpose when you're kind of in survival mode. So I think the obvious thing is your energy and your vitality. How can I create I can't control everything, but within my control, how can I have the highest vitality and energy? And am I supporting myself? And I can tell you guys, like right now, it's been a very stressful time in real estate. Adrian and I've really gone through a lot of things. I am doing, Krishna and I just did some breath work a half hour ago. Like, you got to take care of this body. This is number one. Everything else is important, but not as important as my health. And so taking those pregnant pauses has been, I've learned so much, because honoring this when I'm feeling good, it's like I'm unstoppable. And so health and wealth. Health wealth is number one. People and community wealth is number two. The strength and authenticity of your relationship. Not just knowing a lot of people. Everyone in Austin knows a lot of people. I like that. The strength and the authenticity Who are your close friends? Who's your ride or die? Who's really going to be for when you're having a bad day or a bad moment or you're broke or something horrible happens to you? Go out quietly, Adrian. When the rubber meets the road, who's really there for you? And have you really built those bonds in your family, in your friends, in your business relationships? And we're going to talk about this, Joe, some stories about that.
I heard a funny stat before the pandemic, and it was that on average, adults in North America have 0.5 best friends. Because some people have more than one and they have less, but when you average it all out, they have like 0.5 best friends. Like, what are we doing that we don't have time to invest in each other?
Yeah.
That's the state of affairs of our species.
And with
right
Instagram,
now.
you can have 5,000 followers and not a single best friend.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know that, I have friends that I'm like ride or die with, and I have like, there's the spectrum, right? From the acquaintance to the, oh, I know you from Instagram, or I saw you at the thing, all the way to like people like JP or our friend in town, David Gonzalez. Like, I can call those guys any time of the week, call them at 3 a.m, and they'd be like, come over. There's those, right?
True.
And I just wanted to point out that when he talks about the wealth of authentic relationships, like a lot of people don't have that, which sounds weird. We're recording this in Austin. We're all very communal here. That's not normal. For adult humans, it's not normal to have that level of relationship, let alone multiple versions of that.
Yeah. And it's kind of strange. I'm going to get to the third one, but what's kind of strange now with AI, if you really don't want to meet people, if you don't want to have rejection while you're dating, or you don't want to pay a therapist, I mean, it's all there. I mean, I do think it's going to be like people versus like artificial intelligence in your relationships. And I think it's going to be really important for my son's generations and their kids to really nurture these healthy relationships where you're balancing that beautiful intelligence with human intelligence. And I think that'll be cool. So the next one's time wealth. We've all heard about time wealth. And Joe, actually, when you first talked about time wealth, I'm like, oh, that's easy. And then I really thought time wealth was easy for me. And then I realized it's actually the hardest one. Because when people talk about time wealth, you hear this all the time, guys. Time wealth, like, oh, I'm caught up in my emails and I'm caught up on the phone and I'm exhausted and I'm grinding. And that is the most things we talk about with time. And yes, I mastered that early on. Even as someone who's worked really, really hard, I've always found priorities for things that are important. I think what's more interesting about time wealth is, it's probably the most important thing about wealth gives you. If you don't have a boss, so you can actually create a situation where you can have time. Well, are you creating the space between the time so that you can have a mindfulness practice to be present? Because I can tell you, I've got lots of time. You want to play pickleball tomorrow, Sam? You tell me 11 o'clock, Cody, 11 o'clock, cancel that, we're playing pickleball. Like, I'm being a little extreme, but I really live on my rules, and that's awesome. The hardest part of time wealth for me is that mindfulness practice, and it's going to be ongoing to my last breath. But it's so cool because without that space, I couldn't even play the game of mindfulness. And I think that's like the hardest, most interesting dimension of time wealth that I'm experiencing. How about for you?
Well, I thought it was interesting because when I first started working with JP, like, he didn't get the time wealth thing because he's the fish in the sea. He's like, what do you mean there's an ocean? I'm just moving around in this thing, And what I've observed is, like, with time wealth is a lot of folks there's a payoff that they get from being busy all the time, and they get addicted to that payoff. So if you gave them a calendar that was as white as a field of snow that hadn't been stepped on, they would freak out. Because they're so addicted to being busy. They're so addicted to the OCD loop of pulling up your phone and looking at whatever the flow is, like your sports, your Instagram, and then you wake up out of your daze, 30 minutes later, you're like, oh, I'm back. There's some level of payoff or addiction that we get from farming our attention out, plugging our umbilical cord in and outsourcing our agency all the time, that you actually have to, like, build the muscle of being okay, like just being at peace doing nothing. Or like knowing that you're totally valuable and you're totally worthy if you're not producing something. Crazy idea, right? Like, you can just be. It's wild. Like, I went to Lisbon last summer, and I observed people's lives revolved around their lives. And it's been a long time since I had that experience. In fact, we got so comfortable that we ended up getting pregnant and having a baby. But it was amazing, And so I think the time freedom it's counterintuitive, And I've had periods in my life where, it's like seasons, There's seasons for a reason. there's seasons where I'm very zen and I'm very like in the flow and I'm at peace and I want to be like the still lake. And then there's seasons where I'm the choppy water and I'm on it. And it's like a season to put my head down and a season to like go make things happen. Like I'm answering a calling and I'm willing to change the way that I think about my time. But I think the ultimate freedom of time is what we were talking about earlier, which is you choose.
Yeah.
You're at cause, not at effect. You're not in a rush if you don't want to be in a rush. You create the conditions for your time and you treat your time as an investment, more importantly, significantly more importantly than how you might invest your capital. And you never outsource the investment of your own time, right? So I think there's this whole other level to time freedom that, we're so time poor because of the way our society is that it's difficult to see what's possible. And when I say the way that our society is, I want to be clear, like I'm a libertarian capitalist. I am not throwing rocks at that. It's just an observation. It's just the byproduct of when you are that way. It's difficult to chill. It's difficult to be like, no, I'm good. Like I don't need to be making anything or doing anything. Like I can literally just sit here and do nothing without the need to watch like Netflix or TikTok or whatever. I'm just chilling like that. And the peace that comes from that is it's amazing. So I think that's part of this time freedom that most people don't quite have figured out.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say is that when we talk about time freedom, there's lots of perspectives on time, right? There's like, oh, you should buy back your time. You should manage your time. You should, do all these things with your time. Chop up your time into little 15-minute increments and like be a good steward of your time. And I think people are at different journeys of where they're at, what they're thinking about their time. I think time freedom is literally like I get to shift that mix at any given time because I want to, right? And I'm not beholden to someone else's priorities. That to me is time freedom.
Yeah, no, I agree. And by the way, like I've noticed this is kind of an Austin thing. A lot of people are traveling. They're going from one event to the next, Burning Man to this, to that, to the ayahuasca ceremony. And it looks tiring from this perspective. Like you're really working really, really hard to try to find time freedom, but I'm not sure that you're finding it. You're just going from one event to the next, which is to your point. It's just whether it's scrolling Instagram or just going from event to event, stillness is hard. It's a perpetual exercise, and it's a practice. It's definitely a practice.
Yeah.
I had one funny thing. I was at Yuki Hand Roll. It's my favorite place. If you guys haven't been to Yuki Hand Roll, it's the best sushi around. Anyways, I was there and I was watching this couple, and I was actually sitting there alone having lunch, and they were both on their phones. No big deal. And I figured out they'll be on their phones for 15 minutes. But then they'll start to talk to each other. And the food comes and they're eating like this and they're still on their phones. I'm like, I'm sure they're just like, And the entire time, I actually was them from the time they sat down, ate their 5 plates of whatever they had and left. They didn't stop looking at the screen. I thought, wow, you literally had 2 different experiences. You really weren't even present or together. But that was just an observation. It was actually kind of funny. I'm like, that's intense. But anyways.
That's where we're at right now.
That's where we're at. I think the most important one, I think the hardest one is time. But for me, I actually think time wealth is the hardest one to practice because it is that mindfulness practice. But I think one of the most important ones is purpose. And I think we all talk about purpose. What is purpose? What is spiritual wealth and purpose wealth? And I think I've seen from my own experience that a lot of people, it's hard to find your purpose. What's my purpose? I don't know my purpose. It hasn't come to me. But yet I think really knowing your roadmap to why you're here, and it doesn't have to be epic. I'm here to be a great person. I'm here to be the leader in my church. I'm here to be a great father. I'm here just to be an honest business guy. I'm here to just light up 3 people in my life. Like it doesn't have to be these great things, and sometimes it is. But what I've learned after my 58 years of being on this planet is these little movements that we do, these little purposes of leaning in to things that are important and not letting time distract us. It's like I said earlier, it leads to the next thing. It's almost like by doing the one thing and finding what lights you up. And sometimes it's just a faint, you don't know. It's like, I think that's cool. I think I want to go to that. I think I'll go to that ocean cleanup thing. I don't know. Maybe I'll go to this podcast at 4 o'clock. I don't know what this JP is going to talk about. But you keep following that instinct until the signal gets stronger. And it gets stronger and stronger. And that's like manifesting a muscle. And then you get to play in the highest levels of purpose. And what I'm experiencing now is the more and more I say hell yes to that intuition or that inclination, that is my legacy. My legacy is ultimately going to be the culmination of all these little acts that I've been doing, whether it's the center, whether it's how I've been here at Thrive, raising kids, as a husband, like all these different things is legacy. Legacy isn't really something that you strive for. It's the end game. So why not know and have some idea of what that legacy might be to you? And Tristan, years ago with me, when he was coaching me like 15 years ago, we did an exercise where you actually visualize. You have to close your eyes and visualize the last day of your life where you're being buried and put in the ground. And you're in the ground and you're kind of noticing, what are people saying about you? Like, who were you? Like, what are they saying about you? And do you like what you're hearing? And that little exercise, Tristan, really put me on high alert. And then we did an extensive process after that of like, I don't want it. I want to dictate that conversation. I want control to the end of my legacy. And it starts now. And Joe, one of the really cool things that we've been able to experience together, and it's been such a gift, is, again, I see it a lot in people, but particularly in men more than women, they just don't know. So if I say, what's really important to you? People tend to give their story. It's the story you're going to tell at your next party. When someone says, who are you and what do you do? You already know your story, right? Boom. Who are you and what do you do? You've got it queued up. You've said it 1,000 times. And you might say 2 other cute follow-up things after that. And that's the story. But beyond the story is the emotion. What's the emotion? So why ends in an emotion. I'm doing this because I love strangers. I'm doing this because I want to explore how money can transform people and uplift them so people can understand that money is for good, not for greed. Like whatever it is, and why do I even care about that? That's another story. Because I really love people at my core. And I'm actually fascinated with this idea of loving strangers. Like when Jesus said, love a stranger as thyself, what did he mean? And I want to go deeper into that exploration. So I started a nonprofit for my multifamily residents. Because I don't think I have, like, my lifestyle is very different than a lot of my residents. But I want to know what Jesus meant by that. Love thy stranger as thyself. Could I actually become that engaged in my heart with love that as I continue growing these free programs for these residents, I can look them in the eye with the same thing that Jesus must have meant when he said it. And now it's a curiosity for me. Well, that sounds like a spiritual pursuit. And so with Joe's help, we've been able to prompt some great AI questions that really help you, that if you're locked or you're not sure, your why that makes you cry, that's a hard thing to say, or what your purpose is, because you're so caught up in your story, be loving and be compassionate to yourself, because most people are. I've been doing this a long time. But there are ways to unlock it, and I think AI, and I think you've proven it, Joe, and Tristan, you dug in with this too. Like we can really, in 20 prompts in 2 hours, get you much deeper and give you some pretty strong clues in your soul, because I really believe that everyone has a soul signature. Big or small, there's no big or small. It's a beautiful soul signature that we're all here to do. And I'm going to offer you guys, because Joe tells me I'm supposed to do a leave behind. So I'm going to offer you guys, if Joe allows me, the prompts.
You're allowed.
I'm allowed? I would highly recommend, if any of you are saying I'd really like to explore this a little more, what JP's talking about, then ask me. You guys now are just reach out to me, and we'll offer this to people who are watching the podcast. We'll offer this to you too. Try the prompts out and see where it takes you. It blew me away, because I really felt like I was dialed in. And I did the exercise now 3 times. And every time I do the exercise, it's a little scarier with how dialed in it is. And I'll give you guys one win, Joe, since the time I did the prompt with you at the Fulfilling Your Workshop just 3 months ago. I was shocked, because it was telling me my ideal day in 3 years from now. And my wife was there, and we're drinking matcha tea and all these things. But it said, and I didn't think I was yearning for this, it said, your wife does no more work around the house. You guys have a full-time crew that runs your life, and you have the best chef in the world, because my wife's a little picky on food. It's seed oil free and it's gluten free, and it's pretty intense. So it's like, you're going to have the best chef in the world, and your fridge is going to be full of the most food that you really want. Turns out, according to my financial planner, I could afford that now. I just didn't know it. And so that dream, I now have that person coming to the house. Boys, are you happy with the cooking at the house? We have a full refrigerator full of abundant, healthy food. I'm not snacking on chips much, and that really just came.
You guys can't see it on camera, but they're like grinning ear to ear, and they're like bobblehead dolling right there.
Like, how cool that just the prompt. So I already have the vision. Like I've got the next 3 years, and I thought I had everything, and now I'm like leaning into the last 10% of that. So I know I just took up a lot of space around purpose, but it means everything. It means everything. And I'd love to know what it means for you.
Well, first of all, Alex, what is his Instagram handle? So at JP Newman, hit the message button and send him a message that says vision. If you send him a message that says vision, by the time this is published, we'll set up an automation that sends you the prompt that we use in his workshop. And when he says it's the why that makes you cry.
That's $10,000 cheaper, although I'd still like you to come to the workshop.
Yeah. There's it's like, yes, people paid, 10 grand or more or whatever in 2 days of their lives to come have that experience. This was just like the tip of the spear, like one little thing that we did. We'll send you the work. We'll send you the prompts. And when he says the why that makes you cry, like people legitimately cry.
Crying
they
a
sob
lot.
because they can see a bigger future for themselves that they haven't been able to see their entire lives, because we figured out a way to use AI as a mirror back to yourself, right? And so if you guys want access to that prompt, go to at JP Newman, send him the word vision, and we'll set up an automation that sends you that prompt so that you guys can have that experience too.
Joe, so I have a question for you. You are going through so much right now. Obviously, you have a new child. You're thinking about, you actually launched an incredible new business that you're already blowing it up, of course, with your new business. And you're thinking about relocating or living in multiple places around the world. And I see you as so intentional, because I've been trying to get a cheeseburger with you for like 4 weeks now. You've told me there's this best place on the east side that I've never been to. And yet I know you're busy, but I know you're busy for the right reasons. I think I said to you, like, I want that cheeseburger, but we'll do it on your time.
I'm ready now.
But tell me about purpose for you. Tell me, because you are busy, but you're busy with a lot of intention. It's not busyness. Yeah. It's very intentional for you. Everything you seem to do, from where you live, the next thing you're willing to do, the people you invite to your workshops. How do you framework like purpose and spirituality and with what's happening in your life?
That's a good question. So I like to think about my purpose as like a container. So I like to give it an identity term. So typically, like, my purpose in this life is to simplify and amplify. So I don't care how I'm doing that, on a podcast, on a stage, teaching a workshop, leading a team in business, my family. That's what I will do by default. Like, for whatever reason, I'm here to simplify complex ideas and amplify them out into the world. And my role in the game of business is shifting. So I'm going from the operator, the guy that runs the business, to the architect, the person that looks across multiple businesses and multiple opportunities and helps fuel other people to have their experience as an operator and making it better for them. And so, I'm still the CEO of Daily AI, which is an amazing business, and we're in hopefully, knock on wood, in the process of a successful exit by the time this episode comes out. And I've launched a new business called Prime AI. Raise your hand in the room if you're in Prime or know Prime. Yeah, a lot of us here. We have a big 3-day event coming up. There's about 50 of us in the group, and we're going to have a blast. But the purpose of Prime is to help entrepreneurs win with AI, like right now. And there's a lot of ways to unpack that, but that's my role as architect. How do we use AI? At Daily AI, we were fortunate enough to have access to the API to OpenAI way before ChatGPT came out. And so we had a lot of time to think with AI as a thought partner and make bets about what we thought the future was going to look like. And from day one in Daily AI, every role in that company has been AI enabled. So we have not just theories, but battle tested, proven, like, what works, like what tools, what automations, what's crap, what's actually on the ground floor moving the needle for a customer service agent, a sales rep, a marketing person, a leader, whatever the role is in the business, a CFO, a lawyer. And we've got 3 years, which in AI years is like 10 years. It's like a decade. We have a whole bunch of applied experience. And so we've opened this container called Prime AI. It's for experienced entrepreneurs, especially the ones that sort of feel left behind with AI because it's all changing so fast. And what we really trying to do, besides help you grow your business with AI, is help you transform your identity from feeling left behind to being ahead of the curve inside the conversation of AI. Yeah. The common experience that people have coming through it is they will come in, like, literally not even, we just did a workshop last week and half the room didn't even know how to get WhatsApp on a web browser. And we had to teach them how to log into ChatGPT on their phones. And by the end, they're building automations and custom GPTs, and they're like completely fluent. They're like top 1% in prompt engineering. And predictably what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks, they're going to go out and tell people, because they're excited about it, And then in 2 weeks after that, they're going to be the expert in their circle of influence, regardless of where they're at. And that's that transformation that we're really trying to help take people through.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to stop you for 1 second.
Please.
That's the narrative.
Yes.
What's the emotion?
The emotion is...
And the feeling of why?
It just feels really good to be serving people in a capacity that I wish I had earlier in my career.
Okay.
It happens to be the vehicle through AI. So for me, I feel just an immense amount of gratitude. I feel really peaceful. I feel like it helps me get into a Zen-like moment, knowing that I put everything I had into that day to be of service with maybe one of the most powerful technologies that's ever existed to just get the most leverage possible. Like that genuinely brings me peace. Like I sleep really well despite having a newborn son at the house. It's like less than a couple months old at the time of this recording. It just brings me an incredible amount of peace knowing that I can be in the highest levels of service in a leveraged capacity with AI. That just makes me happy. Like I don't need to do that. It makes me stoked.
I want to say one thing, like Joe's response, because I've done this so many times with people, is when you finally get to your why. Like that is what it feels like. It's so clear. It brings them happiness and it brings them peace. There's stories of how we get there. We all tell the stories of, oh, it's going to be this, and I'm going to empower 1,000 entrepreneurs to change the world, and that's all great. But really what it's for him, it's about peace and happiness. And it always comes down to an emotion. It really does. And so thank you. Like that's what clarity looks like. Most of us are not clear. I get it. I've been doing this for a while. But get there and use the prompts if you're not there. Take it, even if you think you're there, play with us. Take the free offer and just try it. It's worth the hour of your life. It's pretty awesome.
I can probably get you there in less than an hour too.
You're so fast. I relished in it though. I thought it was super, super cool. So we're gonna wrap. We're gonna kind of wind down, and we're gonna get to the Q&A part. I just want to say one more piece of this. So we talk about fulfillionaire. So what is a fulfillionaire? And a fulfillionaire really is when you are living in the 4 dimensions of wealth, you are a fulfillionaire. Actually, if a fulfillionaire is the byproduct of living. So, and you guys could probably raise your hands. You kind of get what we're talking about, the energy of like living in these realms of your health, your vitality, your communities connected, your marriages, your relationship to your kids, your purpose. And when that's all dialed in, you are a fulfillionaire. It's not a financial status. It is a way of life. And so we actually just did our first workshop on, it's a fulfillionaire workshop. And it's like your goal, Joe. My goal has really been to transform people, entrepreneurs. It's mostly entrepreneurs who have made some money. And Sam's been part of this too, together to transform them. If you're in a place of feeling unsafe or unclear, how do we get you from that journey to safety? How do we get you from safety to abundance? And then how do we get you from abundance to impact? And Joe, you talk about this. I'd love if you would. I know for you, Joe, and you have your own Joe Stolte, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And you always say that one of your missions in life is to get as many people, and I think we're saying the same thing here with fulfillionaire, to that top level. What do you call the top level? I think it's pretty similar to being a fulfillionaire.
Yeah, the top of mind is just significance. You go from like startup to significance and all the stages in between. And the term that I use is like, I want people to become not just entrepreneurs, but business artists that can create without constraints. I think that's I
love that.
It's a beautiful vision to have, and I don't think enough entrepreneurs afford themselves the luxury of even thinking about that. And so, but it's very similar. You know, at the top, you don't have constraints in any of the dimensions, and you for once get to like really create from that place, and it's a special experience. So, and honestly, like selfishly, I just want more of my friends that are entrepreneurs to get all the way to the top, and then we can go play together. We can go, I don't know, buy an apartment in Lisbon and like take it over and raise our kids and have a lot of fun.
I'm all in. So just to end things, I want to tell you guys a funny story. Krishna, come on up. Do we have an extra mic, or should I give her my mic? You have a mic? Will you give it to Krishna? So I have to tell you guys a funny story about, this is Krishna, everyone. So Krishna, I'm eating dinner with David Gonzalez. I don't know if you know the story. I'm eating dinner with David Gonzalez at the Four Seasons. And we're just talking about, I think, our own version of wealth and purpose. And I get this little tap on my shoulder from the booth next to me, and it's Krishna. She just says, oh, we're talking about Dispenza. We were going to Dispenza, I think is what it was. She's like, did you mention Joe Dispenza and the quantum? And I'm like, I guess I talk loud. and we just like talked for 3 minutes, really, Krishna. We didn't talk that long. You're like, I know something about the quantum and Joe Dispenza. And you're like, let me get your number, and we'll exchange. I'm like, yeah, sure. That's just one of those weird Austin, things. And Krishna has really been a champion of what it is to be a fulfilling in four-dimensional wealth. I think it's funny how the right person shows up at the right time, but like Krishna's on this intense spiritual journey, and she just came and said, "Can I talk to you?" I'm like, "Of course." And it's really turned into this beautiful friendship. Krishna has been massively supporting building the podcast, Investing on Purpose. She's really been so supportive of this entire journey of Fulfillionaire. And now, hopefully, we'll be working together even more so as we keep building what I call a movement here. It really feels to me, not from an ego place, I just kind of know this is a movement. I don't know if it's 1 million people, 100 people, or 4 people, but I know it's going to be a pretty big movement. I can feel it, and I think the people around me know it too. And Krishna, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
he's going to put you on the spot.
I'm going to put you on the spot. You came to me, and it was very odd because I remember in our first meeting, I'm always trying to figure out what the person actually, because people usually lead with their story. It's their party story. And I'm trying to figure out what does a person actually want to know? Or what do they need to know? Not what they think they need to know. And Krishna, you were a little bit of a challenge with that, but not that much. You're pretty dialed in. And you kind of started talking to me. We actually started having subsequent conversations. And I think you're finding you have a beautiful spiritual grounding practice, and that you're also a wise soul that's way above your years. But I think you're trying to find your own journey around what money is. What's a career? What is money? And if you could just share. So Krishna attended the Fulfillionaire workshop, and I invited her to come. If you don't mind sharing just kind of your journey and your experience and maybe what you got from it, I would love for you to share. And the reason why I'm doing this is I want you to hear someone else's journey, but we are going to do the next workshop. So we have one coming up September 20th, and we have another one in January. And we're going to keep them small and intimate. We invite the first 23 people who sign up, because here's what we figured out. When people are talking about money or their heart, they don't want to do it on a speaker with 300 people, and they don't want a Tony Robbins stadium. These are going to be intimate, safe, secure, with hand-selected people. So with that, you wanted to share kind of what your journey's been?
Yeah, totally. So something happens. I'm going to talk about JP first, and then I'll transition into the retreat. But something happens when you're around JP, and it's because of how he feels within himself. I think he embodies what it means to live 40 wealth in a way that I haven't really seen a lot of people be able to embody it. And he has a community that he's built of people like Joe, who I've gotten to know briefly over the past couple months, who also embody it in all aspects of their life. And so already being present with himself and walking the talk in the way that he does blew me away. And that's why I was initially really attracted to him. And then he gave me the opportunity to come on the retreat. And earlier in this podcast, JP was talking about the feeling. What feeling does the lifestyle bring up? Why are you doing what you're doing? And the retreat was impeccable because JP, Sam, and Tristan came together. JP's the money mystic. Tristan held the energy, and Sam gave practical financial models to actually make the feeling become a reality. And by the end of the retreat, even though the money wasn't in our hands, we left feeling as if it was already done, and that we were able to embody the feeling of the life that we'd already wanted. And I learned that the number that I thought I wanted was actually way more achievable. And so it wasn't only the mindset piece, it was also the, putting the feet on the ground and saying, wait, I can actually do this piece. And so really transformative. And it's awesome having a community. Aaron was there. It's awesome having a community of people that come together who really share the same values and want to build this really impactful, strong lifestyle, not only for themselves, but for everybody around them.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful for what you've created.
Yeah, we're just getting started.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, thank you all. Joe, before we go to Q&A, is there anything else? Are you feeling good? Is there anything else you want to add before we go to the audience Q&A?
I feel great. I was talking earlier about time and about being proactive. And I have, if you go to dmjoe.com, like the letters like DM is in direct message, dmjoe.com, and send me the word time. I have an awesome AI prompt that I run every Sunday that helps me become more proactive with how I'm choosing to invest my time that week. And it'll ask you a series of questions to bring your awareness around how you're investing your time and how you're thinking about your time. And obviously, I'm a huge fan of AI. And so I try to use AI as a tool and be as generous as possible. So if you're interested in that, if you're here in the room or if you're listening, you can go to dmjoe.com and just send me the word time, and I'll get you that prompt.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe, so much. Appreciate it. Okay, audience questions. Do we have any questions from the audience about what we've been talking about? Thoughts, comments? Yeah, Connor.
So obviously when it comes to time well, it takes a certain amount of like presence and comfort within yourself to not feel like you're missing out on anything else. But I feel like that's also kind of an inherent part of spending your time how you want to do it is like the opportunity cost. So is there anything that you do to kind of practice keeping that balance between being comfortable in what you're doing and missing out on that opportunity cost?
Yeah. Are you talking about like in personal life or social life or business or what?
I believe the kids call it FOMO, JP.
Yeah, FOMO. I know what FOMO is. I gotcha. Nice following. I don't know if it comes with time or maturity, but I still, because I'm such a kid, like I will try to cram in 4 events in a day when I can. But there's also a wisdom in me that's really okay with missing things. And I really just try to be in flow. Like there was a party I thought I really wanted to go to on Saturday night, but where I was so rich that I just like, I take some moment, like, because in my mind I have an idea that I'm supposed to be doing 2 things. And it's like a moment of like, where am I really, right now I'm really present and I'm really in flow with where I'm at. I really like the people around me. And whatever that was, it's okay to let it go because I'm kind of, it's like a check-in of like what's real for me at that time, which can drive some people crazy, by the way, because that's living in a flow state. Like you have your schedule, and I really tend to like people who allow me to be in personal, not necessarily business, in a flow state. Because then you really you kind of know what to do it. And then the magic happens. You meet that person or that relationship or that one thing you've been missing. It becomes like this serendipitous, joyous mystery. And I find the more I lean into that intuition, the surprises and gifts that are given to me are beyond anything that I could wildly try to create if I was to try to structure or try to say, I got to meet this person or meet a new investor or go meet this. Like if I used to try, and this is like so much more rewarding than trying.
Yeah, for me, it's like a seasons of life thing, you know? Like, I don't know how old you are, but when I was in my 20s, I wanted to be everywhere and do everything, and I did. And I just made it happen. And then in my 30s, I moved to LA, and I wanted to go work out at Gold's and meditate on the beach and build startups, and I did. And, you know, now in my 40s, it's like, I want to hang out with my favorite people, which happens to be my family. And so that, whenever I have a free moment, there's a small human wanting my attention, and I'm eager to give it back to them. And so I imagine that at some point my kids are going to grow up and I will be without children in the home, and then I'll have a different season in life with which I can choose. My environment will help me choose how I invest my time. But if you're young and you're not married and you don't have kids, like I don't think there's anything wrong with going everywhere, doing all the things all the time, because you don't know anything. Like you're like you just need perspective. Just go have a bunch of experiences and get perspective, because that's why they say, you know, you learn in your 20s and you earn in your 30s, because you're kind of a dummy. You just don't know what you're doing.
He's not calling you a dummy.
Not you, but I mean,
you know, not you personally.
I was a dummy. I'll just talk about my experience. Like I was an idiot in my 20s, and the only way I became less of an idiot was I just went out and had a load of experiences and learned to observe. And I just like, if I felt pulled, I would go. And I think maybe the best tool is what JP was saying is like, depending on your season of life, just like taking a deep breath and like listening to what's right for you. Where do I need to go right now? And if you feel that like, I should go to the party or do the thing, dude, go. Like follow that, because there'll be a time in your life where you won't have the ability to go, right? Because you'll have other things that are phenomenally more important. So yeah, when I was young, I was a big fan of just say yes to everything, and just have as many experiences as you want. Then you kind of earn the right to go, nah, that's not for me. That makes sense.
Cool. Tristan?
This is super dope. Thank you guys. So stoked to be in the room just to watch you riff. Love that you kicked this thing off with essentially health is the greatest wealth. And I'd love for Joe to riff a little bit on health, because for me, I connect making money to working out. So when I go to the gym, I think I'm about to make a lot of money.
It's off mic. Everyone's laughing because his wife said good.
So, what's your jam on health, and how can you maybe connect those dots even more? Because you're making money too, and I think a big part of it is how you take care of yourself.
Yeah, thank you. A mentor of mine, it's funny how life works. A distant digital mentor who I learned a lot from in business is now my business partner and a very dear friend of mine. His name's Eben Pagan. And he once said that he went to the gym a lot because his best ideas weren't in here, they were over there. So my best ideas are under like 250 pounds of weight on my back while I'm doing squats. Because like the monkey mind can't do anything except focus on the weight, and then every time it's like lightning in a bottle. I get these ideas. Like I'll be mid-set and I'll rack it so that I can make a voice note and then get back into the set because I just get the best ideas there. But for me, I actually I'm huge on leverage, the small hinges that swing big doors, right? What's not just the 80-20, what's the 95-5? What's the 5% that will get me 95% of the outcome? So for me, if I nail sleep, in order for sleep to be true, like it's that one domino, like I have to have my diet locked in. I have to have, and when I say I have to have, I'm truly saying that. I don't believe that's a limit. Like I've been testing things with sleep for the last 6 years. So yeah, like I think health is a huge part of it. And to me, health just equals the quality and quantity of my sleep. That's the number one driver. In order for that to be true, like diet's got to be locked, fitness has to be locked, mindset and stress and peace needs to be in a good spot. And it's the world is not stable, and the universe is always expanding. So like, it's not like I figure it out once and I'm like in the pocket forever, as you know. So I just think about it that way. And also at the end of the day, it's like, I just like being fit. I like waking up in the morning and going, yeah, I'm proud of that guy staring back at me in the mirror. Not for anybody else, just for me, right? It's funny, a funny story. Like my wife, we had our third child and she got pregnant. Every time she gets pregnant, I make a goal to be as fit as I can so that I don't get pregnant too. And so it's funny, like, I've been working on like my social accounts, and I went and I've never actually chosen as a man to have muscle. Is that weird? I just chose to not be fat, if that makes sense. That's just my mental model. So I decided to like put on some muscle, and like, I was like, cool, I'm going to schedule a photo shoot. So I did a photo shoot, and I'm not kidding you. If you ever want to figure out how fast to lose followers on Instagram, like go show your abs and like post a picture. It's like, it's the most polarizing thing. It's like half the people are like, oh my God, congratulations. Half the people are like, I'm out of here. Screw that guy. He's a prick, So I was like, but yeah. So my lesson from that was like, cool. Cause I'm not doing it for you anyway. I'm just doing it for me, and it was cool. Cause we did the photo shoot, and like, I felt really good. And like Journey, my son who's here with us, like he wasn't supposed to be at the photo shoot. He just showed up, and like, that made the whole thing even better. Like just having him there, and he got in the photo shoot and we were playing around. So like, to me, having that vibrant energy to get up, the person, for those of you that maybe can't see him behind the camera, is Tristan. And Tristan is the master of energy. He's a teacher of Qigong, and being able to harness the energy in your body and direct it and manufacture it and have control of it. Like, wow, what better wealth is that? And so for me, I just happen to do that through training as hard as I can oftentimes. And I get a lot out of it. And I also just happen to think that the fitter I am, the more easily money is flowing into my life for whatever reason. So,
Well, I've never attached fitness to money. That sounds like a nice hack. You have to tell me more about that. Because I hate working. I just do it. I'm like, okay.
You're in the moment. Your mind just opens
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
State kicks in.
yeah.
You're dropping notes and insights, but also it affects your energy. So when you
It's
walk
true.
in the room, energy is capital, and relationships are everything.
Yeah.
People feel drawn to our energy, and we end up doing business with those people because we like them. So
Ooh, I like this. This is a whole new.
we found your next podcast guest.
Yeah, I like that. Yes. He's been there. Any other questions? We good?
Some of you guys got some. Josh.
I don't know if it's a question, but I just want to add in. I appreciate both Joe. I love both you guys, and it's interesting that you guys had this conversation today. I probably should have looked at what you were talking about. I just knew I needed to be here because of both of you. But,
Not to cut you off, those of you guys that know, Josh literally like medicated himself to get out of pain to be here, and he didn't even know what we were talking about. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
show up when there's two human beings like you both in the room. And, the story you told, what you talked about today, I mean, Nathan and I were talking today, and I mean, we literally, you could ask him, the story that I told him about my life is what you talked about today. Being able to go in, looking at, quote unquote, being successful, as everyone in the world looks at it as monetary. And I hated my life where I contemplated if I should be on this planet or if money I would leave for my kids to be more important. Having a reset, being able to go through, not even realizing that, I mean, I was building a 40X, my 4 pillars of success, very similar to y'all. And even looking at where I am now and the happiness that I have, I mean, I'm going through a lot personally, but because I've built my life very similar to what you and Joan talked about today, it has given me the capacity to be at events like this, to be able to handle the things I'm going through and still feel more successful than I've ever felt.
Yep.
So thank
It's awesome.
for
Yeah.
leading this way and being able to stand up and be able to share this information. Because if I had this information prior, I think everyone here, this world will be a different place, not only for us, but for our children and the future generations. So.
Thank you, Josh.
Amen.
Absolutely. I mean, can you imagine if people felt safe around things, and if we shared a little better, and people felt safe? To your point, it'd be a different world of how we exchanged. We could loosen up quite a bit.
Yeah, and I just want to make it clear too. Like I can imagine if you didn't know me and you're listening to this. Like I just want to make it clear. Like I don't have it all figured out. Like I don't have the answers to everything. Like I just went through a really dark season in my life, and I expect many more to come because that's how we learn and grow. So like if you're listening to this and it's like hard to hear a conversation around abundance like this because you're going through it, I just want to say like that's totally normal, and like we see you and it's part of the process, and like I'm not perfect and JP's not perfect, and I don't want to leave that illusion. Like I've definitely failed more times than I've succeeded, and I intend to fail spectacularly even more as I continue this thing called life. So, you know, if you're not in a place where abundance is highly resonant for you, I just want to say, like, I get it. I totally get it, and everything is a season. So just keep your feet moving. And the last thing I would want anyone to have is the impression that like we have all of our shit figured out. I won't speak for JP. I don't. And I'm just
perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Well, JP is pretty perfect.
I don't know what your problem is.
Yeah. But my problem is I don't spend enough time with you. So I just wanted to share that. Yeah.
It's awesome. Hey, thank you all. Oh, go ahead. What?
So Josh and I are having this conversation of how do we bring this idea of abundance and wealth and impact to the generation, say older generations versus the youth. Like the youth seem to be more impressionable and more able to actually implement this and create a generation of people who live this way.
Yeah.
Whereas people who are more settled in their ways and perhaps have more wealth already amassed in their life, perhaps wouldn't be willing to make those changes.
Yeah.
I'm curious for you both, like how are you thinking about how to spread?
Well, you bring up a good question. Actually, you know, there actually is a financial requirement to attend my course, and I feel bad about that, but there is a minimum net worth to come to my course, and it's not because I'm an anti-elitist. Like, it's not that. It's just that, like, it's very hard when you're in scarcity. These are high-class problems, and if you're in scarcity and you're having still thinking about how I'm paying the rent next month, it's really, really hard to start talking about feeling fulfilled and four-dimensional wealth. It takes this really, like for me, and it may change. It's actually an open conversation. I would love to give this to everybody, but I think until you're in a place where you have some resources and you're out of survival mode, I don't think that's my audience at this point. I really think it's like I want to help people who have resources or maybe just don't have frameworks and mindsets to actually utilize them well to live the best life they can. I don't know. I mean, how do you, like I said, I think it's a really hard problem. And I think there's a lot of people selling snake oil out there to people who are broke, and they're taking their last $50 to promise them that they're going to win the lottery. So I don't know the answer. I know for me, like I said, I'm kind of picking an audience that has some net worth and really just trying to work with their mindset and framework.
Yeah. And I think,
do you feel different about it, Joe? I don't know.
I totally vibe with that. I think one of the things that you asked, Nathan, was like, you know, as they say, like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. How do you teach people that, regardless of age, that are more set in their ways, how to like change their paradigm? And one of the things that I found super useful is my friend Jesse Elder has this idea that love is an acronym that's like letting others voluntarily evolve. And I think just being able to see people for where they're at on their journey and let that be okay without the need to change them, and just really to try to understand them from that perspective is the first step to opening the possibility that you might be able to influence them in one direction or the other. But in some weird counterintuitive way, you almost have to let go of the need to influence somebody, whether it's for their better good or higher good or not, and just kind of let them have their own experience and just totally be open to holding their space and being with them in that space. I don't know if that's the way. I know that's a way that I've observed works well, regardless of age, if you're stuck in your ways or you're stuck in a paradigm. Because how many young people do you know that aren't old that are stuck in like a paradigm, a political paradigm, a subculture paradigm, right? So age is part of it, but it's also just like sometimes you're young and impressionable, but you're already locked in. And if I come in guns blazing to tell you you're wrong, or I'm trying to knock you off your mantle, like that's not going to get received well most of the time. So I think just like suspending judgment and actually being able to like entertain without adopting anyone else's perspective. Like I can entertain any perspective in the world. I don't have to adopt it, right? And that's part of holding space for people, because if people don't feel heard, they don't care, right? Those who help create the plan don't fight the plan. If you jam it down their throat, like no one's down for that, right? And so I feel like regardless of age, if you're stuck in your ways, the first step is just hold that space and be okay that they may never change, and you're just there out of curiosity to figure out why they're doing what they're doing. And I think that's the beginning of potentially a longer process that gets them to change.
Cool. Last one, if there's any, are we good? Any last ones? Are we all good?
I'll just speak for the seniors.
Yes.
There is something to be said for an older adult who knows relationships alone are not fulfilling me. Fame is not fulfilling me. Beauty is not fulfilling me. My money is not fulfilling me. And to be presented with a package that is inclusive, a message that doesn't say, oh, you have to walk away from that if you want this, and you have to walk away from this if you want that. That's a big, beautiful part of the 4D wealth. Is it allows everything. And when you have felt so burnt out and you know that nothing else works, for an older adult, it is so refreshing to know that it's okay to have wealth in all dimensions. So I think there is great value in that senior community as well.
Yeah, it's an and, not an or thing, right?
I think it was interesting, Sabrina, with what you're saying. The first thing we do in the workshop is we do this whole thing about money mindset. What messages are running around in your head that probably came from your childhood, from your grandmother? Mine was money doesn't grow on trees, and I ate all my food on my plate to this day. It's like, doesn't matter if I'm hungry or not. Like, there's these things that get ingrained in us. So all of a sudden, like, money is the root of all evil. Religions that tell us all these things. So how many things are we still walking around with? As we get older, that's literally dictating how we interact with money. And so as part of the course, we start to identify what are those messages or stories that you don't even know that are subconsciously running you. And can we come up with better alternatives? Maybe more empowering narratives to where you're at. Let's catch you up from the 4-year-old to who you are today and come up with more empowering stories. And that's like a super fun thing.
A lot of us were raised by parents that were in survival mode.
Right. Absolutely. I know my parents definitely were. Yeah, definitely. Thank you all for coming. If you want to know a little more, hopefully if you haven't signed up, if you'd sign up with Cody in the back, thank you, Cody, always for making this happen. Cody's the magic person here. But if you haven't signed up, if you would sign up with us, that'd be great. There's a checkbox. If you don't want to be bothered, we don't want to bother you. If you do want to know more about the weekend workshop, it's Mastering 4D Wealth. You can just reach out to us, and we have a landing page that'll tell you more about it. If you want to know more about real estate investing, Thrive FP, there's QR codes here as well. We are referral only. We don't advertise. We don't feed you steak dinners. We just like to talk about real estate for people who are looking to build their cash flow. What was interesting is that this deal that we just funded this week, as Adrian says, it's the first one we've done in a while. We see this cycle, all this instability and everything you're seeing in the world. We kind of like it as a buyer because we think this is the beginning of what we think is a nice little cycle to find some cash flow real estate opportunities. So if that's of interest, great. If you just want to know more from the sidelines, know more about learning how to invest in real estate through Joe Stolte, we've got the Thrive Pulse newsletter. Is there a QR code for the newsletter?
There is. It's back there. I'm going to +1 the newsletter because even if like you're not interested in real estate, like these guys are in this conversation at the highest level from an investment perspective. And every month they do this thing, this pulse, this market pulse. And there's like a fear greed index that like they basically quantify what does the market look like right now.
We give a number every month of is it a good time to invest or not.
So just for that alone, like getting their bird's eye view of how they see the market is like, it's amazing. And they give it away for free. It's like there's this other, a lot of people in real estate pay for like the Lindemann letters. It's like this economic analysis. It's like their from the streets, ground up market analysis of how they see the world and the market and making sense of all these things that are going on. It's amazing, right? Like I invest in real estate. I'm not in the market to invest, but I love listening to it because these guys have so much wisdom and they just give it away every month for free. Like that's the top thing in the newsletter. So that's my +1 for the newsletter. And yes, there's a QR code back there. Just scan it, get on.
We have a little extra food. If you guys haven't ever seen the roof up here, you might want to take a look at the roof before you go. This is just a really special spot on the planet. The architect here was a very famous Japanese architect named Taniguchi, and I think you could feel his love and his artistry in the building. And feel free to mosey, and we'll see you. And thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hey, hope you enjoyed the episode. Love to hear from you. You can reach me on all the major platforms with Investing on Purpose. And if you want to reach out to me personally, reach out to me at JP Newman on my LinkedIn. Would love to hear from you. You guys have been giving me some amazing feedback. I'm watching the audience grow, and I'm really grateful to you, and hope these episodes can continue helping you on your wealth journey to becoming a true fulfillionaire.